So I was thinking there's something interesting that you said in the press conference about the authorship of the role. So that mean that you had, before the script was set for this one, did you have any conversations with Matt and the screenwriters about the journey that Ceasar was going to have in this one?
Yeah, Matt sat down with me about 2.5 years ago, and he told me the entire story.
Oh wow!
In real time. I mean, it literally took 2 hours for him to tell me the story in great detail. He's such a collaborative director. He really is. And he's a brilliant actor's director, and allows scenes. He won't shoot anything until the scenes have been rehearsed, but not just rehearsed in terms of camera blocking, rehearsed so that everyone really fully understands the drama of the scene. So although he had a very clear idea about the script, and he wrote down intentionally what the characters would say, that leaves all sorts of room for interpretation as to how that actually comes off the page.
Okay.
And that's where the collaboration really took place. So he was very firm about where the story was going
to go.
But also within that there were certain moments where there were debates about how to play scenes and the outcome of certain scenes.
So I know you must be tired about, you mentioned that you don't approach motion capture acting as different as you would if it wasn't, but I want to flip it on you. And given that you have directed a movie that uses motion capture and you have directed a drama that doesn't use it, as a director, is the process different for you when you're using motion
really
capture?
Interesting. I'd say no, not really. I mean, obviously there are some sort of technical things you have to do with performance capture, like you have to shoot a blank pass, you have to shoot a plate, you have to shoot, but that's nothing to do with the actual performances themselves. When you're directing actors, so it doesn't matter whether they're playing a panther or a snake or a human being. You're creating the story together.
Okay, so wanted to ask you, I know that movies are shot out of sequences, but Ceasar has been such a tortured character. When you got to that final moment, which I won't spoil, was there sort of a sense, were you able to enjoy that sort of sense of relief and of him securing the place that he has in the ape history? Because I mean, everything else, you're suffering all through it, so I want your take on that.
Well, of course, as you say, everything's shot out of sequence, so and naturally that shot was nowhere near the end of the principal photography, so it was literally sort of kind of two-thirds of the way through, and it's very bizarre shooting a climactic scene like that, knowing you've got more journey ahead of you. Again, so that was my experience. Although I have to say it was a very it is a somber and I mean, it is. What I love about it is that it's.
I thought he found peace, though.
Yes,
in a sense.
exactly.
So not necessarily. I don't want to give too much detail.
No,
I don't want to spoil it. No.
Sure, no, but yeah.
So there we go. I wanted to ask you, because you said that you would be interested in returning in any sort of capacity to future ape movies, just that Ceasar will not be involved. And you mentioned that the key would be having a director that knows that this is a popcorn movie that lends itself to art and talking about the human condition. Would you consider being that director, given that you know that what can be done with this particular genre of movies?
Look, I absolutely love this, this franchise and these movies and these characters, and I guess that would make great sense in a way. They're a tough act to follow. Matt Reeves has created some 2 amazing movies, and Rupert Wyatt created an amazing movie before that. So I think it's all about. I mean, and they've all 3 of them known very clearly which stories they would like to tell. So I would have to find. I think if that were to be the case, I would absolutely have to be crystal clear about where we would drop anchor in the future before we get back to the 1968 version, and what story we would tell about the human condition.
Yeah. So I'm not your agent, but here's another possibility. You said that what you loved about Ceasar was his humanity. The obvious thing would be, when you mentioned is to play Cornelius, even though you mentioned that another actor might. Would you be willing to play a human that doesn't have that much humanity? Because that would be a challenge.
That would be amazing. Yeah, absolutely. You must come and work with my agent.
I'm going to give you my cell phone number, and you're going to give it to Matt, and we'll do something. We'll have lunch.
That'd be great. No, I think that's really interesting because. Yeah, to have a completely human take on it. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so last question before I let our fan take over. You've had, the Apes movies have a fandom, and obviously you're part of the Marvel universe, which have their fandom, and you're also in the Star Wars. Do you see a clear line between, are there different sort of fans between the Lord of the Rings, or do you see a line between the fans that you have encountered?
I think no. I mean, what they all share is a phenomenal passion. I mean, you know, a great authority and authenticity about what they believe in. You know, so they're I mean, I've just come from Comic-Con and yeah, and it's, you know, it is an extraordinary place to be because you get that confluence of all of those guys who live and breathe it, and there's nothing better than being surrounded by people who are that passionate. So but I don't really. I mean, I don't really draw a distinction between the different franchises fans.
Okay.